I want to tell you, it's a great joy. I mean, it really is a great joy. It's a treat. That's what it is. It's a treat to have this gentleman here on the Bob Grant Show. I've known him for many, many, many years. I'm talking about Barry Farber, writer, journalist, nationally syndicated talk show host, Army veteran, and advocate for Jewish charities. Now, in 1991, Barry won the title of Talk Show Host of the Year, and he was recently named among the top 10 radio talk show hosts of all time by Talkers Magazine. And he's with us right now to talk about a book he was destined to write, and only Barry Farber could write a book with this title. Are you ready? Cocktails with Molotov. Cocktails with Molotov. And I'll never forget, and I want to share this with the audience, walking east on 34th Street. And there's a crowd of people, and I wanted to attract Barry's attention. He was several steps ahead of me. So I shouted out, "What happened to Imrinage? What happened to Imrinage?" And only one guy turned his head, and that guy was Barry Farber, because he's the only guy who knew who Imrinage was.
Oh, Bob, I could listen forever. Every moment on your show is precious, and everybody who's written a book and has one in his hot hand understands that. I don't care. I'd rather listen to Bob Grant. It is a treat, Bob. It's my treat. Do you realize that you and I have worked together on 3 continents? We've worked in England together, in Israel together, and in America together.
That's right. Tell the audience about that occasion in London, now that Mr. Gaddafi went the way he was supposed to go.
Well, at that moment, you were the spiritual leader of the Get Gaddafi movement. You were a couple decades ahead of your time, but you've always been. That's nothing unusual. And you went to the Libyan embassy. I guess so you could tell your listeners what it was like. And they were as hostile as they would be in a cheap Hollywood movie. They opened the front door and snarled at you and said, "Who are you? You have business. You have business." Remember that?
Yeah, get away. He was going, "Get away, get away."
Bob, you are a treasure. Just being on your show is a thorough honor, delight, and I want to thank you very much before I forget.
Well, I want you to tell us where you got the inspiration for this clever and very catchy title, Cocktails with Molotov.
Bob, there was a cartoon that never let go of me 35, 40 years ago. You know how all penguins look like they are in tuxedos? Well, there was a whole group of penguins on an ice cap in Antarctica. And one penguin had a natty beret and dark glasses and a checkered vest and a rhinestone-studded cigarette holder, and the other penguins were standing around him, and the caption was, he was saying to them, "I just got tired of being so damn formal all the time." Well, to me, the notion of an autobiography was much too pompous. No life is that exciting for that long, and there's too much dull stuff. Same thing with a memoir. How many people have done things that worth memoirizing? No, I decided I was going to write some stories that occurred to me. They had to have 2 qualifications. Every story had to be true, and it had to be unbelievable. How unbelievable? Well, I go to a football game from Carolina to Maryland and wind up for 6 weeks in communist Yugoslavia. That's pretty unbelievable.
Well, how'd that happen?
Well, once I tell you, it's less unbelievable. It's like a magician showing you how the trick works. But since you're Bob Grant, it worked like this. I was regional chairman of a national student association, and at halftime of the Carolina-Maryland game, I ran into the national president. He said, "Barry, we've been looking for you. you to go to Yugoslavia on Monday. I said, he said, it's probably too late now. We couldn't get a hold of it. I said, Bob, I'll go. So I went to Yugoslavia during Tito's time, stayed there for 6 weeks. I got to tell Bob Grant about my friend Charles Fawcett, Episcopalian aristocrat. He was a movie star, 135 movies. He married and divorced 6 Jewish women within 18 months. 6 Jewish women married and divorced within 18 months to save their lives. Can you figure that out? He was studying in France. The Germans came. They took France. Hitler didn't want any trouble with America. His orders were treat the Americans correctly. When the French anti-Nazi underground got wind of that, they knocked on Charlie's dormitory door and said, Mr. Fawcett, would you help us save some lives? If you marry and divorce Jewish women, one after another, marry, divorce, marry, you don't even have to meet them, sir, just sign the papers. Instead of going to a death camp, they'll go to America. So sure enough, he did it 6 times, and instead of going to Hitler's world, they went to America's world.
Have you found, Barry, in your career, in your life, actually, that the more incredible a story is, the less people can even get their head around it? I mean, it's like it's too much.
No, well, I'm sorry. The truth is a wonderful defense. How about this, a little closer to home? I'm the only living witness of a fight between Joan Crawford and Betty Davis.
The only living witness.
I'm the only living witness. I don't know if you knew Felix Greenfield of Warner Brothers while he lived, but he was in charge of their last joint party. They made a movie together, I think in the 70s, and Warner Brothers gave them a party at 21 Club. And they had like a semicircular bar, and Joan Crawford stationed herself at the far end of the bar and Betty Davis at the other far end of the bar. Felix needed a picture of them together. He grabbed Joan Crawford by the arm and said, come on, let's go take a picture with Betty. Joan Crawford seemed cooperative for about 5 seconds until she got exactly halfway from where she was to where Betty Davis was. And then she stopped, froze, like she had some NASA computer attached to her. So then Felix went over to Betty and said, Betty, come over here and let's take a picture with Joan. Betty looked up and said, Joan's got to come halfway. Felix said, Betty, Joan has come half. She was standing way over there in the corner of the bar, and he had to beg and he had to plead and almost throw himself on the floor. These are 2 grown women movie stars. They're not children in a sandbox. He finally got Betty Davis to come the extra 4 or 5 feet so they could take the picture together.
When they teamed them up, that is Joan and Betty, there was much concern would they get along on the set. They made that movie.
I don't know about that, but they did not get along at the cocktail party. I don't know about the set.
Barry, we've seen, you and I, because of our, shall we say, senior status, we've seen so many changes in our lifetime. And I am not really sanguine about our future, but people know what I think. I want them to hear what you think. I'm sure you're much more optimistic than I am.
Bob, I am. As a matter of fact, I've got to go write a column right now. I write a column for WorldNet Daily, and I'll get 4 or 5 comments on each column. That's not that bad, as long as people hit it and read the column. That's all they care about. And one column recently, I got 900 comments, and that's the column where I said, everybody is trying to tell me, I'm sure you get it in your email too, Obama is going to arrange for public disorder to justify martial law, to justify the cancellation of the election, and to justify him ruling forever. And I don't believe a word of it. He's pulled the wrong sow by the ear. He's picked the wrong country, put me down as a complacent, It can't happen here. And I got 900. Not all of them agreed with me. Most of them emphatically did not. But yes, I'm sorry. I'm an optimist because, Bob, you've seen other countries. You've done time in dictatorships. There's too much of America left, even after the Obama administration, to pull anything like that over. You don't have to worry about disagreeing with me. My wife, who is sitting half a foot away, disagrees with me.
Barry, I want to know whether you believe he's going to win a second term. See, you're talking about something outside of the process, outside of the electoral process. But what do you think is going to happen November 8th, November 6th?
All right, please save this for me because I do not fear what you will do with the tape, if I'm right or if I'm wrong. I think it is going to be a Romney landslide. A Romney landslide. I just cannot believe these very, very deep-thinking analysts who tell us, well, Obama can't run on his record, so he's going to have to go negative on Romney. There's not that much negativity about Romney. It won't work. We have Wisconsin. Have you heard of Wisconsin? Have you heard about Anthony Weiner and his replacement within the 5 boroughs of New York, a Republican? Did you ever think you'd live long enough to see that?
No.
Okay, well, how many reassurances do we children need before we quit whining and quit crying? We're going to win this thing.
I'm glad I asked you, but it's well, you know me well enough. I don't have to explain myself. But when I see harbingers, I don't look at them with any enthusiasm. For example, this morning I heard some babe say the housing market is turning around. Price of gasoline is going down, and people will credit him.
A certain number will, but this is not a stupid population. They will look at the totality of the Obama experience. Bob, I don't think they would call themselves conservatives, and we want to throw out the liberals. I don't think they would call themselves rightists who want to throw out the leftists. I think that my landslide for Romney will come by people who want to cut out the craziness and put the normals back in. I mean, look what's going on. Just pick a department, any department. Shall we start with the Justice Department? Is this normal? Is this what America grew up on? Is this what America got great on? There is going to be a massive organized unleashing of the right kind of anger. Not Molotov cocktails, not firearms. They're going to go to the ballot in such overwhelming numbers that voter fraud is not going to help them.
All right, I am going to save the tape. And when I start getting down on the dumps, I'm going to put that section of the tape where you just said what you said.
Everybody knows he is being recorded, and everybody knows the tape may be used against him. I don't care. I am tired of these analysts who act like a nudist crossing a barbed wire fence. I don't make predictions all my predictions are death-defying predictions.
Barry, you haven't sounded this good in a long time. That new wife must have rejuvenated you.
Bob, I didn't come here to brag. Yeah, I'm a newlywed. Matter of fact, she is the last chapter of the book. Her name is Sarah, S-A-R-A, and we have I know you're hard up for time. May I take 35 seconds to tell this story?
Of course.
All right. I was looking for a producer when I was big dog in the all-night meat house on WOR. And she came to me to apply for a job, and I was a single man. I wanted to marry her on the spot. It was 1969. But we got along like a slow waiter and a poor tipper. She didn't want the job, and she didn't smile. A year and a half later, we ran into each other again. She was then a street reporter, probably the first female street reporter for a major television channel in a major market, Channel 5 in New York. And again, she didn't give me the big hello, so I forgot about her. 37 years later, I saw her name on an email copied to a friend of mine, and I hurriedly emailed him. I said, is this the same Sarah Pence who used to work for Channel 5? He said, yes. So he bucked my email over to her. She wrote me a nice email. I wrote her a nicer one. And we were married only last, 2008. September the 3rd, 2008. And my friends who hear the story say, what in the world took you so long? And we just call it Cupid's long nap.
I remember you telling me about her when we were on a dais together at the 2008, the 2008 Talkers Magazine convention.
Right. I'm glad I got a witness, right.
Yeah, you do. You do have a witness.
Okay, pal. Well, I couldn't have a better witness than Bob Grant. I'm so proud to have spent these years with you backstage and these minutes with you on your show.
Barry, I want to thank you, and we'll get together and tell some of those great stories about, for example, the time we were at that Sephardic community in Israel.
Oh, my Lord, the Lubavitcher Hasidic community, wasn't that something? This was a massive bar mitzvah, about 120 young Israeli boys, all who lost their fathers fighting for Israel. Yeah. It was the biggest it was like the Al Smith dinner, the St. Patrick's parade, all rolled into one for Israeli politics. Every Israeli politician is there, the prime minister. I met the German ambassador to Israel there one time. That's a great moment in history, and I'm glad we could share it together. But you did more. You went into Suez. You went to the Great Bitter Lake.
Yeah, well, yeah, we had a lot of fun in our time. Can I turn the clock back, anybody? No, I guess I can't. Barry, good luck with this book, and I remind our listeners, the title is Cocktails with Molotov, an odyssey of unlikely detours, the story that Barry Farber shares with us.
Bob, thank you, and don't forget my prediction late at night on November the 6th, okay?
I won't forget.
Thank you, Bob. I really love you, and I appreciate these valuable minutes on your show.
All right, pal.
Take care.
Okay, the one and only Barry Farber. I mean, there's a lot of guys doing talk radio. Everybody, for example, that appears on the Bill O'Reilly show, below their picture, it says radio talk show host. Everybody's a radio talk show host. When I started doing this in Los Angeles on KABC, there were only a handful in the whole country. All right, enough out of me. Let me be quiet here and straight ahead.